Hello, my fellow Americans. Today we are back with another episode of the amazing Cool Kids Coffee Corner. Today we're going to be delving back into Far in the Future by Silver Dawn 2010. We are going to be entering the 4th chapter today. Mama Knows Best. The author gives thanks to Johnman14, 01's Son Amy 01, Novus Umbra, Rafael Pereira, Mana the Cat Magician, Poka, Jackal the Kitsune, Kula Lolly, Auto-Knight 01, Tails the Mighty Kitsune, Tyrannifex, Trumpet Girl 818, Trinita, Scully 2K, Tails 5555, Vivienne the Rabbit, Holo Spartoi 258, Delta 2-1, Mike Prower the Fox, and Writer's Freedom. Man, that's the last time I promised to update the next day. I seriously just jinxed myself, as life really has a way of invading when all I want to do is just write, dang it. Well, that and I'm loving Essay 2 Battle right now. Either way, here's Chapter 4. Enjoy! Chapter 4, Mama Knows Best. The sky held a somber ashen gray color, covering the whole ceiling of Mobius with a thick, heavy mass of rain clouds. The tops of the hills were obscured by the dense, cloudy fog that foreshadowed a coming thunderstorm. And to one two-tailed fox, none of these clouds had a silver lining, especially since they were all pouring down rain. The light but still present drizzle left a misty atmosphere, a soaked fur coat, and a rather depressing mood hanging over Tails' head. He had kept one of his eyes on the sky, watching for any flashes of lightning. All it would take was one of them, and he would be turning around and hightailing it back to his place. There was something about seeing the powerful bolts crashing from the heavens and striking the earth without warning that scared the crap out of Tails. Maybe it was because it was so random that even science couldn't predict when and where they would strike. Or maybe it was because the accompanying but still delayed thunder was louder and scary enough to shake the earth itself. But, as scared as Tails was of thunderstorms, what he was about to do was scaring him even more. He felt fear grip his heart, but he couldn't let it stop him from his journey this time. I can do this. I can. I want to, at least. All I have to do is talk to Vanilla and tell her that I really like her daughter, and she should change her mind, because I mean no harm. Oh man, how do I come to be in these situations? Tails continued trying to psych himself up for the coming conversation. As he flew through the damp, thick air, he decided that the only thing he could do was try and convince Vanilla that. He'd planned on talking to Amy first, but realized that the girl would only tell him to be patient and wait those 3 years, just like she herself had waited for Sonic as a young teen. And Tails was realizing that would be the one thing he could not do. Finally coming to a drier place, the area right underneath the rabbit's porch, Tails shivered against the cold water still clinging to his fur. He spun his namesakes around, hoping to spray all the moisture off. Once he was sure he looked a little more presentable, Tails raised his hand to summon someone to the door. It opened to reveal the older of the two rabbits, surprised to see him. "Oh, Tails, come in, dear. You must be soaking wet," Vanilla fussed as she reached to pull him inside. "Sorry," he apologized softly. "Don't worry about it. Now, you stay right there and I'll run to grab some towels," Vanilla assured him, as for the moment, her charity and kindness eclipsed her suspicion of why he'd shown up. Tails awkwardly remained in the entrance hall. His heart calmed down now that he saw that Vanilla at least didn't hate him anymore. For a moment, his imagination had made him believe that she had. The fact didn't change his embarrassment over his soaked fur, though, as he looked down at himself and cursed the storm. A second later, soft hopping footsteps reached his ears as Tails blushed as he realized who his next visitor was. Even though he was anxious to see her, Tails slowly raised up his eyes to meet hers. Oh, even when she was sad, she was so beautiful. As soon as Cream looked into his dazzling blue eyes and saw her own longing mirrored in them, she knew that he'd come just to see her, and nothing could warm his heart more. And nothing could warm her heart more. Oh, he braved the storm, and with how afraid of lightning he was. You came, she said softly, knowing how good of hearing Vanilla possessed. He nodded once and tried to cover up his heavy namesakes, conscious of how they were dripping on the floor. Cream didn't seem to mind, though, by the way she kept looking at him achingly. Before he could say anything else in response, Vanilla had returned with 2 white fluffy towels. There you are, dear, she said sweetly and handed them to Tails, who immediately dried himself off. I have some hot cocoa and apple pie made if you'd like a snack. Tails' eyes lit up. Thanks, I think I would. He accepted and followed the 2 rabbits into the living room, once his fur was only damp. Vanilla took a left turn into the kitchen to grab the food, once again leaving Tails and Cream alone for a moment. The 2 locked eyes again at the edge of the living room. Why did you come? Cream asked in hushed tones. I wanted to see you. Did you get my message? Tails asked quietly. Cream softly shook her head. Message? I left you one on your phone. I just wanted to tell you that I still like you, and I'll try to talk with your mom, he admitted. Cream nodded and quickly reached to take his hand, giving it a gentle squeeze before releasing it. Good luck. Tails blushed at her contacts, and the warmth of her touch lingered even as Vanilla re-entered to serve the snacks. The 3 of them sat and made small talk for a good hour, even as the rain pounded at an increasing rate against the roof. Every time there was a break in the conversation, Tails kept trying to work up the nerve to bring up the reason for his visit, but just felt his tongue tie up. Cream kept on giving him encouraging smiles, but Tails still felt his confidence waver as soon as he looked at Vanilla. It wasn't that her appearance was intimidating. On the contrary, Vanilla held a smile the whole time. It was the knowledge that as soon as he brought it up, that smile would disappear. It doesn't matter. I have to do this anyway, he thought, as he took another glance at Cream, his heart skipping. I'll do this. For her. Miss Vanilla? Tails ventured and cleared his throat. Yes, dearie? Okay, how to start this one? I was wondering if it'd be okay for, me to take Cream out sometime. As predicted, her lips flattened. It wasn't like Vanilla hadn't seen this one coming. Still, she forced a smile back onto her face. Tails, I first want to say that you've been like a son to me ever since we've met. You are a very good boy, and I trust you. However, I have decided that Cream should wait a little while before she starts going out with boys, for her own good. But why? Tails asked quietly. I won't do anything. I just like Cream a lot, and I want to take her out and have fun. I won't do anything if that's... Vanilla's smile was slowly reappearing. I know you won't, Tails, but even if you start off slow, then things can build up, and I'd rather Cream waited until she was... Mom, don't talk about me like I'm not here, Cream butted in. Vanilla looked back at her daughter in astonishment of how rude she'd just been. Cream! Mom, please, you're treating me like a baby. Look at Tails, he's not gonna hurt me. I just don't see what the big deal is. She crossed her arms in defiance. Vanilla lowered her voice and leaned towards her daughter. Cream, where is this attitude coming from? I think that you're forgetting that I'm your mother, and your attitude is not going to make me change my mind. In fact, it's just making me think you really aren't old enough to date. Cream rolled her eyes. How does that make any sense? She muttered. Please, Cream, what has gotten into you? You usually don't act this way. I wouldn't have to if you didn't treat me like I'm still 6 and make up stupid rules, she retorted. Vanilla opened her mouth to respond, but found herself at a loss for words. She hadn't had to seriously discipline Cream since she was about 3 or 4. The girl had always been polite and respectful. And now, she's become a teenager, Vanilla realized with sadness. She's growing up too fast. Miss Vanilla? Tails tried again. I'm sorry that I asked you. Vanilla was brought back to the real world, but found her response off again. Ding dong. Ding dong. Vanilla took one glance at the preteens, and then quickly jumped up to answer the door, muttering, "I wonder who would come in the rain." But as soon as the words left her lips, she remembered and cursed in her head. As soon as Vanilla left, Tails and Cream immediately exchanged glances, mutual longing reflected in their eyes. Both of them were afraid to make the first move towards each other, wondering if the other was feeling and thinking the same. Tails licked his lips, and that's when Cream suddenly noticed how soft and luscious they looked. What would it be like to kiss them? Mom would kill me if she found out. But who says she has to find out? I'm sorry, Cream. I tried, but... Tails felt tears in his eyes. I guess it's not gonna work. I still like you, though. Cream felt her own eyes tear up, but she fought it and scooted closer to him, resting her hand on top of his. But Tails, this isn't fair. I shouldn't have to listen to Mom. There has to be something we can do. A sudden burst of excitement and noisy activity echoed in the front of the entrance hall, and the next second a lavender blur attacked Cream. "Aunt Queem!" Sierra shouted and enveloped Cream into a hug. The rabbit blinked in surprise at the unexpected assault. "Sierra?" "Well, somebody's excited today," Vanilla said with a smile as she entered after the toddler. "This is tame for Sierra," Amy added with her own giggle. "Uncle Tails!" Sierra screamed and then lunged for Fox, nuzzling against his stomach before racing back towards her mom. Tails and Cream exchanged glances, both wondering what this visit could mean. "Where's your brother?" Vanilla asked as she crouched down to face Sierra. "He's with Sonic," Amy explained. "He didn't want to go shopping, believe it or not." "All Chase wants to do is run," Sierra said with a small pout. "Don't you like to run, Sierra?" Vanilla asked the toddler. "Yep, but Chase is not that good at it," she said matter-of-factly. It was just then that Amy noticed her best friend sitting off to the side. "Hey, Cream, me and your mom are going shopping. You want to come?" The girl hesitated and looked at Tails, who had frozen in place. It was all she could do to keep from glancing at her mother. So her mother was going to be away for the next few hours? Could this be her chance? "No, I'll stay here. I really don't feel like going anywhere." Amy pouted as she picked up Sierra and rested her against her shoulder. "Oh, come on, Cream. We haven't talked in a long time. Why don't you come?" "No, I just don't feel like it," she refused again, even after looking at Sierra's big, innocent expression. Amy frowned. Why was Cream being so difficult? They hardly ever got to talk as it was. Cream never used to be this stubborn. So what was wrong with the girl now? "Okay then," Amy said in spite of her thoughts, and let her smile reappear. "Come on, Vanilla. It'll be just us three here." "No, you just go on without me, Amy dear. I'll stay with Cream and Tails," Vanilla insisted and sat back down. Oh, snap. "You can just leave him with Cream. I'm sure she wouldn't mind it," Amy said with a cheerful wink and oblivious smile. But she was just met with Cream's eager nod, Tails' blush, and Vanilla's unamused and level expression. Her face fell and she blinked. Did I say something wrong? "I'll leave," Tails said abruptly, and immediately jumped up. "No, Tails!" Cream protested and grabbed his arm without thinking, not wanting him to leave. "Sorry, Cream," he apologized and pulled from her grasp, even though it was tearing him apart. "Miss Vanilla, Amy, Sierra..." Tails acknowledged all the girls present and headed for the door. His gloved hand made contact with the metal doorknob, but before he turned, he sent an apologetic and tender glance at Cream. "Tails, please, it's still raining," she begged at him, and they looked to Amy and Vanilla for support. "Please, Mom, be overly polite and insist he stay here, please." But the older rabbit kept her mouth shut, more from indecision than anything. Vanilla wanted to talk her situation over with Amy. That's why she'd offered to go shopping with the pink hedgehog in the first place, and Tails leaving would open the door for her to leave. And yet, am I being selfish? She wondered. A sudden, loud roar of thunder echoed into the house as soon as Tails swung the door open, and the fox jumped back in sheer terror, his heart hammering against his ribcage. Oh gosh, no, not thunder. He'd always been afraid of thunderstorms. It was a phobia age hadn't cured. But still, he couldn't stay. He caused enough trouble here. Him and Cream just couldn't be together. Without another thought, Tails braced himself and went out into the rain. Oh, this whole thing just wasn't fair. A scowl overtook Cream's face as soon as the door slipped closed, and she turned to send her mother a murderous look. Oh, why did you send him away? You know he's scared of thunderstorms. Cream hissed and then ran upstairs to her bedroom, cheese in tow. Vanilla felt her own heart sink as she felt the anger and hatred of her own daughter. Please, Cream, try to understand. I love you. Please don't hate me for loving you. Meanwhile, all Amy could do was frown in surprise, thinking, what did I miss? And all Sierra wanted was to get out of the house, and so with her persistent pleadings, the three of them went out into the storm to take the next train for Station Square. As soon as Cream heard them leave, the silence settled in on the empty house. She scowled. But with every subsequent roar of thunder that echoed across the hills, her fear for Tails grew. Oh, poor Tails. He's out there in the storm, probably scared to death, and it's all Mom's fault for driving him away. How could she do that to him? Why didn't she insist that he stay? She hopped over to her window and peeked outside through the droplets obscuring her vision. Oh, I wish that I could go after him, to make sure he's safe. What's holding you back, Cream? She blinked and thought. What was preventing her from chasing after Tails? Your mom is gone. She won't be back for a few hours. You could sneak out and be back before she even knows that you're gone. Boom! Cream cringed as she pictured Tails shrieking in fear from the thunder. But that would be disobeying Mom. Can I actually do that? She doesn't really care about you anyway. You're in the right, and it's not even a real date. It's for Tails. You're just seeing that he's okay in the storm. Without another thought, the rebellious teenager slipped her window open and flew into the rain, searching everywhere for her crush. ... And signed ... Let's see. Okay. With the help of 2 large umbrellas, the 3 girls all somehow made it safe and dry into the mall so that Amy could buy even more maternity clothes. Sorry, I was wondering how exactly we've been doing for time so far. We're doing pretty good. Sierra had one of those baby leashes harnessed around her body to prevent her from running off on a whim. At first, Amy had loved the idea of the leash. It had been Sonic who'd called it child abuse. But all it took was one time taking them out and having them both run away that she'd convinced Sonic to invest in one for each. They'd been lifesavers. Amy was slower than both toddlers, even when they were at this age, and they had tons of energy and super speed. The last thing Amy wanted was for them to take off running in the middle of the mall and have her unable to catch them. Worrying about her hyperactive children was a full-time job for the Pink Hedgehog. It was things like this that made Vanilla feel that Amy was the only one who might actually understand why she was restricting her daughter's activities. She hadn't expected to find her best friend in somewhere over a decade younger than herself, but she was glad she had found a friend in Amy. Most of her older friends were all caught up in their own husbands and children, and Vanilla couldn't relate to them as well, and it didn't sit too well with most of them that she was a divorcee either. So after a few years of hearing, you should have waited to get married when you were older, and you should have chosen a better man, enough was enough, and Vanilla had left them more or less drift away. She still kept in touch, but only to be polite. And she didn't want to make her... I apologize, my fellow Americans. And she didn't want her daughter to make the same mistakes. She wanted Cream to live like she'd always wanted to. She wanted Cream to be a better version of herself, to do the things that she hadn't been able to. And so that's why she raised the rabbit so well and reinforced good manners and behaviors and grammar. As she looked between the accompanying mother and daughter on the shopping trip, Vanilla couldn't help but be jealous of Amy. Vanilla herself was on the wrong side of 30, while Amy wasn't even 20 yet, and the Pink Hedgehog had a loving husband and 2, soon to be 3 or 4, children. Vanilla had always wanted to have multiple children, maybe as many as 10, but of course, things never come out like she planned for them to. So now here she was, on a Saturday afternoon, at the mall food court with Amy. Sierra was busy half eating her grilled cheese and coloring the sky purple and the grass blue, while the two mothers talked. Vanilla sighed and tried to fight off the envy she felt bubbling up in her heart as she looked over Amy's shining wedding ring and pregnant belly. and her perangent belly. So, how does it feel to be pregnant again? Any better than the first time? Vanilla asked once they'd gotten their food. Amy nodded. Well, now we know exactly what to expect, so I'm more calm about it. And honestly, I do feel better now that Sonic and I are married. I'm really excited, actually. A grim over... Yikesy badikesy. A grin overtook her face. And how's Sonic taking it? Very well. He's almost as excited as I am. We actually planned for this one, so he was fine with it. I'm still trying to convince him to have 8 kids, though. Vanilla smiled politely. He'll probably change his mind in a few years, once he starts to love his kids. You know how Sonic is. She thought for a minute. I've always wanted to have that many, but it's a little too late for me to have any more, Vanilla said ruefully. Oh, don't say that, Vanilla. You could always find another guy. I bet you have your eye on someone now, don't you? Amy winked at her. Vanilla felt heat come to her face. Oh, I'm getting a little too old for that. You're not old, Vanilla. And wow, oh my gosh. They just pulled that card. You're not old, Vanilla, and you're a rabbit, Amy teased. Everybody knows about rabbits. Vanilla suddenly really wanted to change the subject. Well, yes, I have my hands full with my only child at the moment. Oh yeah, I noticed. Why was Cream being so... Amy drifted off and took another bite. Since she was eating for 2 now, the mother had ordered double portions. She's a teenager now, Vanilla said as if that would explain everything. She's thinking she's old and mature enough to do certain things when I don't believe that she is. Amy tilted her head in confusion. What do you mean? Well, I've made the decision that she have to wait to go on dates until she's 16.
Yeah.
Amy tilted her head in confusion. 16? Amy echoed incredulously, but when she saw the look in the other mother's eyes, she turned her eyes back down to her gigantic chicken salad. Sorry, but that's pretty harsh, Vanilla. I don't think so. It will help her appreciate dating more, and make her realize it's something to be taken seriously. And she'll have to choose her date carefully. But still, Amy said between bites. No wonder Cream's so upset. I know I'd be super pissed off if my parents were still alive, and they did that to me. That's a long time to wait. What are you so afraid of? Amy, don't you care about your children? Don't you want to make sure that they're safe? Vanilla gestured to Sierra and her kid leash. Vanilla, I'm all about protecting my children, but to me, waiting 3 years to go on a date seems like way too much. If it were me, I'd have an early curfew, but no dates altogether. That's just too hard for her. Don't you trust Cream? The rabbit hesitated in revealing her true motive, not wanting to offend Amy, but she realized this may be the only way to get the girl to understand. She lowered her voice. Amy, please don't take this the wrong way, honey, but it's because of you and Sonic that I've realized the dangers of careless dating, she said almost cryptically. Amy blinked. Blinka, blinka, winka. Me and Sonic? What? And then it hit her like a ton of bricks. She blinked again, this time more rapidly as the heat came to her face. Miss Vanilla, she said almost indignantly. Please don't take this the wrong way, and I don't blame yourself, dear, Vanilla said quickly. In fact, I should be thanking you for opening my eyes to what could happen. You made the mistake, and now Cream and I can learn from it. A mistake? Amy shrieked. Her temper flared up. She looked over at Sierra, who had stopped coloring as soon as her mother raised her voice, her tiny lavender ears against her head. Are you saying my daughter and son are mistakes? How dare you? Amy, please, Vanilla soothed as she hated Amy's temper. That is what I'm saying, but you shouldn't be upset, it's true. Mommy, why are you mad? Sierra asked in such a sweet voice that Amy couldn't help but calm down. I'm not angry, honey. Amy wilted a little and reached over to ruffle her daughter's quills, though she sent a rather angry glance back at Vanilla. The subject changed after this, but Vanilla's mind stayed on the situation with Cream. And even Amy, my one last advocate in this world, didn't agree with me? Am I really being too strict? It doesn't matter. I've already told Cream my rules and I can't change my mind now. I have to let her know that when I tell her something, I mean it. I can't be fickle and wishy-washy, otherwise she won't respect me and take me seriously. I have to put my foot down and show some tough love, even if I'm the only one who thinks I'm doing the right thing. I just hope that I can enforce it. The rain had all but stopped, leaving just a misty haze in the air as the three left the mall, but Vanilla decided to part ways with them anyway, and headed back home. On the walk back to the train station, she pulled out her cell phone and looked through the contacts, trying to find someone else that she could contact with. One particular name caught her eye and she thought for a second before nodding and pressing the green button. In fact, she honestly couldn't think of a better person to talk to, as this one had helped her out in the past. It rang for a good half a minute before the other end picked up. Hello? A deep voice spoke on the other side. Detective Vector? Oh, Miss Vanilla, how are you doing? Vector asked with obvious excitement. The two exchanged polite greetings. So, what can I do for you? I have a case for you boys. See, I'm worried about my daughter, Cream. She's growing up and I'm afraid she might be doing some inappropriate things. I was hoping you and your colleagues could keep an eye on her. It'd be my pleasure, miss. Feeling better, though she wasn't sure why, Vanilla hung up the phone after giving a few more details. But little did she know that she was heading for an empty house, as her daughter had left to find Tails. Author's note. For those of you about to throw up because of the Vector X Vanilla hints, please chill out. I'm not making any promises, but if anything happens between them, it will be minor. Honestly, if you don't like the couple, I'm sorry, but I'm the author. Now, as for Cream running away, well, I needed something to throw her over the edge and say, this is the last straw, and I thought the whole thunderstorm thing would be a good way, though she was harboring those rebellious, disgruntled thoughts for a while now, so it's not really all that random. The fact that everyone is jealous of Sonic and Amy makes me more happy than it should. No more promises about the next update. I'm having fun playing the adventure games. The Chow are worth price of game, honestly, and not to mention the awesome levels. I am so 8 years behind the times. Derp face. Anyway, happy holidays to everyone. And that has been the 4th chapter. So how are we doing so far? We are about halfway through our runtime. I feel as though there is some things that are feeling a bit weird. The story has just gone in such a unique turn. Ooh, my apologies. I went off for a quick run to the old area there. And now we are going to be heading back into the wonderful world of Far in the Future. The author, Silver Dawn 2010, would like to give thanks to Vivian the Rabbit, Holospartioi 258, Autoknight01, Enuis Ketelkaja, Johnman 14, Cookie the Foxcat, Sherry Blossom, Delta 2-1, insert no name. Oh my gosh, I apologize. Trumpet Girl 818, Rafael Pereira, MKS Fan 14, 01 Son Amy 01, Ghosthead 8503, Skull Y2K, Mana the Cat Magician, and Kurumi-chan. Chapter 5, Taken by Storm. Running. That's all he could do and think about right now. His crystal blue eyes were blinded by the sheets of rain crashing down to the earth, and as his fur stung in sharp, painful pricks from the raindrops. But still, his feet sloshed on through the mud and puddles that soaked the previously firm earth. Tails had already slipped and tripped at least 6 times, and his fur paid the price by carrying lovely brown stains. And that wasn't even the worst of his problem. No, the biggest problem was that every 30 seconds, the ashen gray sky would light up for a brief instant, and Tails would cringe in anticipation, only to be shaken by an ungodly loud boom that made him just want to curl up and die. But he couldn't stop, not even for an instant, for Tails knew, if anything, that he had to get home. It wasn't safe to be outside in this weather, so he kept on running, his namesake spinning behind him to speed him up. Normally Tails traveled by flying, but in this case, he knew that being higher up just meant he was more susceptible to being struck down by dangerous lightning bolts. So he stayed on the ground, tripping and pushing his way through thorny bushes and around gnarled trees, being rewarded with the rain dripping through the wind-blown leaves. "I have to get home," he muttered to no one in particular, as his red and white shoes kept humming. He was trying to keep in mind on the obstacles in front of him and not what had happened back at Cream's house. Flash! A bright yellow bolt streaked down from the sky, and Tails immediately yelled and dove for the ground as the ear-splitting boom followed less than a second later. Oh geez, it was that close? It had almost hit him. Tails looked skyward, blinking at the rain piercing his eyes, trying to see if there was anything that was about to fall on him. Oh no! Ah! Tails let out a scream as he vaguely made out a tree branch pummeling down, aimed right for him. He desperately rolled to his left, fueled by adrenaline and an innate desire to stay safe. Oh no. Rocks and a small bush poked into his stomach and chest as Tails winched but kept on rolling. Crash! He froze as the large tree branch slammed down onto the patch of earth where he'd just been lying. For a few seconds, Tails couldn't move. His chest was heaving as he realized how close he'd been to being flattened by that branch. Did that just happen? If I hadn't moved, I'd be a pancake right now. Man, I can't believe I was that close to being hit by lightning or a tree branch. Once Tails' shock wore off, it was replaced by a dull ache pulling all over his bruised body. He'd hit the deck pretty hard when he dove the last time, and the pain was starting to catch up with him. Right now, his whole body ached, and yet the rain was falling even faster, pricking onto his fur and skin. He couldn't stay here. He was lying in the forest in the middle of a thunderstorm. I have to get home, he thought, and was about to lift himself up, when suddenly... Tails! Oh, how in the world? And yet, there was nothing that the fox would rather hear than that sweet voice, even if it was laced with desperation. He slowly lifted his head out of the mud and turned to search for the owner of the voice. Tails! She called out again, and appeared from behind a beech tree. Upon seeing her crushed in such a horizontal state, Cream quickly raced over to kneel by his shaking form. Are you okay? She asked with a desperation and laid a hand over his shoulder. Oh, she knew she should have gone after him, but this was all her mom's fault. Why did she have to send Tails out in this weather? The fox rolled over again, just as a flash of lightning illuminated Cream's face for him. Tails cringed again, and the preteen's eyes met in scared contact. Cream let out a relieved sigh to see that there wasn't much pain reflected in Tails' gaze. Man, you ever just get tired, my fellow Americans? I'm fine, Tails croaked in a shaky voice, still recovering from the last flash. He stared at Cream's face for a second, through the sheets of rain that were still falling between them, before trying to sit up. He extended his hands behind him to support his weight, and hefted himself up. A sharp throb stung his left tail as the fox brought his upper body off the ground. Ow, he groaned, causing Cream to gasp. What's wrong? She asked and looked over his dirty body. I must have landed on it when I fell, he realized and winced, his fingers stroking through the matted down, wet and muddy fur on the appendage. My tail, it hurts, Tails said, but I'll be fine. Cream bit her lip as she looked at the sad state the fox was in. We have to get somewhere safe, Cream decided as she looked back up at the sky, only to be rewarded with 2 large raindrops falling right into her eyes. She blinked in pain, and then stood up, extending a hand to help Tails to his feet. Another light flashed across the sky, and Tails' heart clenched again, knowing what was coming. A loud rumble of thunder followed suit, and at the boom, Tails tightly clutched Cream's hand in support. Seeing his fear, Cream brought her other hand to sandwiches between both of hers in comfort, and despite the storm raging around them, Tails finally felt his heart calm down somewhat as her tender touch. And as he studied her smile through the pouring rain, he suddenly realized that she must have chased after him, just to make sure he was safe. How sweet of her, how thoughtful. Come on, we're gonna get to your house now, Cream asserted gently and started pulling him along behind her. Tails blinked, realizing what she meant. But she was going to come with him? He couldn't complain. You're right, he said and set his face firmly, and determined not to look like a wimp anymore today, starting scurrying off to shelter, gripping the hand of a very brave and beautiful rabbit. Oh, at least it's dry in here, Tails said as soon as he stepped inside his own home and sealed the storm off by closing the door. He was feeling embarrassed at his fear and appearance, not to mention awkward that Cream was here, alone, in his house with him. The rest of the journey here was largely uneventful, which Tails had chalked up to Cream's presence. Apparently, she was a good luck charm, and made him more confident. When she was there, it was almost like she was half of his heart. The stronger half, apparently. The storm still hadn't died down, much to Tails' dismay. Thunder and lightning were still making their boisterous and unwelcome presence known. But at least the roof offered a much-needed barrier to protect them from any more rain. Yeah, are you sure you're okay? Cream couldn't stop looking over his soiled body enough. Tails felt a blush travel up to his cheeks at her inspection. Did she like what she saw underneath all the mud? I'm fine, but I'm gonna go clean up, okay? He said, anxious to get all the mud off of himself. Cream nodded in understanding, then looked back down at her own soaked dress. She'd barely even noticed the rain, as she'd been so worried about Tails. But now that they were inside, she didn't want to keep this dress on, as it was heavily clinging to her fur. But what could she do? She hadn't brought a change of clothes with her. The one time I get to spend alone with Tails, I'm stuck in a soaking wet dress. Oh well. At least we're both safe. Before he was about to turn, Tails noticed Cream's predicament and how the dress was hugging her figure. He blushed at the resulting thoughts that rampaged throughout his mind, but then an idea struck him. Cream? She looked up from her dress. Yes? I have a bathrobe. Would you like to put it on? He offered. A lovely smile lit up Cream's face. She would have known Tails would find a solution. Oh, thanks. That's sweet of you. Tails nodded, but was still blushing. No problem. You can take the bathroom first if you want. The robe should be hanging up inside. Cream shook her head, sending water droplets flying across Tails' entrance. No, you go first. You need to get all that mud off. I'll be okay. You should take that dress off, Tails said. Both of their blushes grew at this remark. I mean, Cream giggled a little, nervously, and started heading for the bathroom. I know what you meant. And thanks, Tails. Thank you. For coming after me, I mean, he said quietly. Cream turned back to him. How could I not when you came for me earlier? I know how much you hate thunder, and I couldn't stand the thought of you being alone in that storm. Tails kicked his shoe back and forth nervously. Thanks anyway. I really better go get this mud off, he said and shyly ran off to his garage, still nervous to be alone with his crush. Cream felt a smile grow up her face as her eyes followed his retreating form. Oh, even with mud splattered across his face, how could he manage to still be so cute? And despite how scared he was of thunder, Cream had thought it was admirable of him to run into the storm anyway. Tails was simply an amazing boy, and now she was alone with him, in his house, about to go put on one of his bathrobes that he had offered. Yes, now she was finally free to spend some time with him. Her heart pounded in excitement at the thought, and Cream grinned and then hopped off to the bathroom, loving the feeling of danger a little too much. With cups of hot chocolate in hand, my apologies, I just got a bit distracted. With cups of hot chocolate in hand, the two preteens plopped on the carpeted floor in front of a space heater to get dry and warm, sitting about a foot apart. Tails had gotten much of the mud off of his fur, and Cream had donned Tails' blue bathrobe while her soaked dress was dripping dry in the bathroom. Of course, the knowledge that she was wearing Tails' clothes made Cream feel giddy. The robe itself was very soft, probably made of some cotton blend. Even so, as Cream snugged into the robe, she couldn't help but wish that Tails would snuggle with her. Tails' mind was on a different but still similar topic: why and how Cream had come after him. The girl was incredibly brave to run into a powerful thunderstorm, just to be sure he was okay, especially since Vanilla seemed to be keeping such a tight hold on her. But he wasn't about to question whether Cream had cleared her departure with her mom. She probably hadn't, and he didn't want to ask and make her think he was trying to get her to leave. So, as he looked over at the rabbit, who sat with her knees under her chin and shivering, he wanted so desperately to put his arm around her, snuggle with her, and let her know that he was stronger than the coward he'd been back in the forest. But he couldn't even bring himself to do that much, and so he muttered, I'm such a coward." The words quietly escaped his lips, but not softly enough to evade the hearing of a rabbit. Cream turned to look at him, and frowned at seeing Tails' downturned lips. "No, you're not. What you did was very brave. You faced your fears," Cream assured him and scooted a little closer, resting her head on his shoulder. Tails blushed at her contact, but couldn't think of moving away. "Thanks, Cream, but..." He drifted off, still not wanting to mention Vanilla. No, he would do anything to keep Cream right here with him, with her sweet head fitting so perfectly on his shoulder. One of her ears fell down to his neck, and the tip brushed the base of his tails. He moved his head just a little to catch Cream's eye, and blushed as he realized she'd been looking at him. But he couldn't let his shyness or his confusion stop him this time. This may be the only time he'd get to spend with Cream, and he wanted to make the best of it. Slowly, shyly, he lifted his good tail and extended it around Cream's back and waist, wrapping the girl in warmth and pulling her even closer to himself. Cream let out a small gasp of surprise at this gesture, but still loved the feeling of his tail wrapped around her. She snuggled against his shoulder and then raised her arms to encircle his chest and hug him. Even though he was still a little damp, his warmth more than made up for that. "That's not the one that's hurt, is it?" Cream was almost afraid to ask, but didn't want to be causing him any more pain. "No, if can't be hurt..." Whoa. "No, it can't be hurt if it's around you," Tails said softly. "Whoa." Brown and Blue eyes met again, and both of their hearts fluttered. The two held each other for a while until the warmth of the embrace eclipsed any comfort the space heater could produce. Even though the storm had gradually faded from the raging tempest to a steady rain, a stray roll of thunder boomed through the house, shaking the window shutters. Tails yelped, only to feel Cream pull him closer in her arms. As he felt her in his arms, the fear didn't spike quite as much. Tails was so glad that she was there, to comfort him. "Sorry," Tails apologized, still feeling like a wimp, though he really had no desire to let go of the rabbit. I don't mind holding you," Cream admitted and smiled at him, though a blush grew up her cheeks. It was then, as Cream turned to look back to his irresistible blue eyes, that the full weight of what she was doing dawned on her. If her mom saw her right now, then she'd be dead. Oh, but how could this be wrong? All she was doing was hugging a boy. Cream felt a frown tug at her mouth. She knew Vanilla loved her, and Cream loved her as well. But Cream didn't want to be under Vanilla's thumb for the rest of her life. She wanted to make her own decisions. Wasn't she old enough now? And right now, it was only them, with no Vanilla around. Cream was alone with a boy, and not just any boy. Tails. The one whom she'd come to want and care for more than anyone else. He was right here. She was holding on to him, and he completed the embrace. Cream nuzzled into the drying fur on his shoulder and neck. He smelled wonderful, like a unique spice that Cream had never tried, but was dying to. She suddenly realized how close their faces were. Tails was bright red from what couldn't be just the weather. She could kiss him right now. There was absolutely nothing to stop her either. All she had to do was lift her face up a few inches, press her lips against his, and then magic. Oh, what would it feel like for their lips to finally meet? Cream couldn't wait to find out. She was finally alone with Tails, after all. Having only one desire, she lifted up her head and so her lips brushed against the soft fur on his muzzle and whiskers. She started making her way towards her desired destination, wanting to kiss him so badly. Tails froze from fear as he felt Cream start honing in on his lips. Oh my gosh, is she really about to kiss me? But I thought she couldn't date, and her mom is gonna kill us. I don't want to get in trouble. If we get caught, then Vanilla won't let me see her ever again, he thought as he studied Cream's brown eyes. He could now feel her sweet breath on his mouth. Oh, you won't get caught? No one's around? Come on, you dolts! Don't you want to kiss her? I do. I do. She's so pretty and sweet and kind. No, Swiggle! No, but I do. No. I'm sorry, I went on a little side tangent because I just imagined this like a Gollum from the Rings thing. I apologize, my lovely Americans. I do. She's so pretty and sweet and kind, and I've always wondered what it felt like. Of course I do, but there was no more time for thoughts or a struggle as Tails suddenly felt his lips captured for the first time. His eyes flew open in surprise, but then soon closed as the pleasant tingles spread down from his lips and his muzzle to the rest of his body. The way she was kissing him was absolutely amazing, with both of her lips caressing his bottom lip and then moving up to the top. Tails had never felt like this before, so wonderful and light and free, sharing love and warmth and kisses and comfort with a girl. And yet, he wasn't free. Part of his heart was tainted with worry. Should I be doing this? He wondered. He tried to kick the thought out of his mind and enjoy the kiss, but it persisted and Tails felt his head pulling away a little. As soon as he opened his eyes and met Cream's confused and hurt expression, he hated himself. Why did I have to ruin everything? Can't I do anything right? What did I do? What did I do? Does he really not like me after all? Cream wondered, her mind spinning with the options. Tails' heart was hammering and his mind went blank, and he felt torn. But still, he protested. But Cream, I thought you said your mom... Her soft lips cut him off again, and Tails succumbed to her sweet kiss, not wanting or able to pull away. Her lips were the softest and most wonderful things he'd ever felt, and Tails didn't want to stop. He had to have more of this feeling. She doesn't have to know, Cream assured him when she pulled away, and raised her hand to stroke his large, triangular ears. And you've made me so happy. Shouldn't anything else matter? Tails looked deeply into her eyes. Should anything else matter? But what they had and were feeling right now. Together? But before he could answer, Cream had leaned forward to press her lips against his once more. Cream's lips continued to explore his own pair, dousing every inch of them in bliss. Tingles ran down his spine as he felt her delicate, soft as a rose petal lips caressing hers. They were so soft and so smooth. Tails had never felt something so tender and loving in his life. And her hands, one was wrapped around his neck, the other was smoothing down his back. She was holding him so tenderly, so close. Tails could even feel her gentle heartbeat through the borrowed bathrobe. Finally, but gradually, Tails felt his own tension and nervousness and uneasiness relax and melt away. After all, this was what he wanted, right? He began kissing her in return, adding his own lips and movements to their dance. His own desires and curiosity were killing him, and trumpeted the mental uneasiness he felt. For once, Tails was following his heart and not his head. It was a huge emotional release, like a dam had been broken in his chest. And he was free to finally give in. His heart began pounding as he pulled Cream even closer, using his tails as well as his arms to embrace her and pull her deeper into his lips. He'd always been driven by curiosity, and this was his greatest this was his greatest discovery yet. I apologize. My fellow aristocrats. My fellow what else can I call you guys? My fellow classy coffee lovers. My coffee lovers. Is this what love feels like? He wondered as he and Cream broke the kiss and panted against the other's mouth. If so, he had to have more of it. Wow, he breathed, still panting. A smile grew up Cream's mouth. Oh my, she had actually just kissed Tails. Her heart fluttered and an odd thrill flooded her system. She'd done it. She'd actually defied Mother and sided with her crush, and she'd never been happier in her life. Tails, she said and looked right into his eyes. I know that Mom doesn't want us together yet, and I know you told me you'd wait, but we don't have to. We can be together now. No one has to know. We can hide it. She frowned as Tails did so first. Please, Tails, I really like you, and we're not doing anything wrong just by being together. If we like each other and want this, then why should I have to listen to Mom? Apologize, my fellow Americans. We had a break in a pause that did a light corruption, and we will be getting back to the story immediately. The fox looked away, still blushing and still torn. His conscience and logic were waging war with his desires and feelings. There was no question he wanted Cream, and all the other options were not plausible. He didn't want any other girl, he couldn't wait 3 more years, and he couldn't remain as just a friend to her, with Vanilla always supervising them. So this, as implausible as it was, might be the only thing left to do. Sorry, lost my spot. You want to sneak around? He asked, knowing that could never work. Cream nodded, showing most of her innocence and naivete was still intact, as she believed they could pull it off. Yes, look, when I get home from school, Mom's not home from work yet. We can meet then. Tails bit his lip, and sensibly added, But when could we go? If we go out... Oh, but where can we go? If we go out in public, then we'll be seen. We don't have to go anywhere. Just being with you is enough for me, Cream admitted and snuggled back into his shoulder before facing him again. Tails nodded. I want to be with you too, Cream. She blinked, her heart melting at his words. You really do? She squeaked. Yeah, I do, he admitted again, this time louder. I'm sorry if there's something loud in the background, my fellow Americans. Hopefully the sound of slick, slow jazz can help you relax from that sensation. I'll just start at a spot. Tails bit his lip and sensibly... Oh wait, I already read that. Tails nodded. I want to be with you too, Cream. She blinked, her heart melting at his words. You really do? She squeaked. Yeah, I do, he admitted again, this time louder, and offered her a tender smile, though he was shaking. I want you to be my girl. So you'll go out with me? Undercover? Cream didn't know why she was suddenly so uneasy. The thought of deliberately disobeying her mother held its own thrill, but she wasn't just doing this just for that reason, was she? No, she was doing it because her feelings for Tails were too strong to be ignored. Slowly, Tails nodded his head up and down and pulled his new secret girlfriend closer. Yeah, I do want to be with you, so we'll figure something out, Cream. Even if no one else knows and we're not official, I want you to know that I do care for you. And even if we have to sneak around, well, I'll do it. For you. Touched that Tails had accepted her despite the hassle, Cream felt her heart melt all over again. Maybe this wasn't pulled straight out of a storybook, but Cream would take this over a boring, single life at home any day. Thank you, Tails. You're welcome, Cream, he said, and, gaining confidence, leaned forward to press his lips against her cheek. The two spent the next half an hour holding each other and making detailed plans. Before Cream glanced at the clock and realized if she wanted to beat her mother home, she'd have to leave now. Luckily, the storm had slowed down to a light, steady drizzle, so the travel time would be very short. "I have to go, Tails," she said and reluctantly wiggled out of his arms. As soon as she stood up and headed for the door, she already missed his embrace. "Goodbye, and thanks. You're welcome. Oh, what about your dress?" he added, noticing she still had his robe on. Cream looked down at herself and bit her lip. "It's probably not dry yet. Why don't you keep it here and I'll come back for it? I mean, if you don't mind me keeping your bathrobe." She blushed again. "No, it's fine. Keep it. My first gift to you." It was Tails' turn to blush. Cream giggled. "Thanks. Goodbye." And with that, she ran home as fast as her strong rabbit legs would take her. She arrived home just a few minutes before Vanilla came back, leaving absolutely no suspicion that anything inappropriate had happened, and further confirming in Cream's mind that she could probably pull this undercover dating thing off. As she lied in bed that night, Cream felt her heart keep pounding in excitement, and it refused to let her sleep. Maybe it was the fact that she was defying her mother and sneaking around behind her back. Maybe it was because she actually had a boyfriend who liked her now, but more than likely, it was simply the memory of how perfectly Tails' smooth lips had molded against hers. Author's notes. I'm not gonna lie, this chapter was weird to write. I don't know if I pulled it off, especially Tails. He came out weird. Maybe I'm losing my touch, or maybe it's just too late at night right now where I live. But either way, I give you a nice big dose of that Tails Cream romance. Smiley face. About time, I know. I have no idea when the next update will be. Not a clue. So enjoy this now, because I'm still planning out the rest of the story. And that is all the time we have for today, my fellow coffee lovers. If you enjoy our relaxing, totally not exciting, totally not several recordings inducing attempts in this wonderful, wonderful Cool Kids Coffee Club, then please, man, I just butchered Cool Kids Coffee Club. That was a butchering. Sorry, I ran out of water. And I hope you enjoyed your time at the Cool Kids Coffee Club. And I hope that you make sure to slap that coffee mug, and I will see you next time where we continue. Still got 4 more chapters, and I'll see you then.